Dickerson is picked, intercepted. Bonito, goodbye. No flags. Touchdown, Denver.
I know I'm better than this. I know. I'm just praying for the Lord to deliver me from pick sixes.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
I know I'm better than this. I know. I'm just praying for the Lord to deliver me from pick sixes.
Hail Mary, full of grace.
I know I'm better than this. I know. I'm just praying for the Lord to deliver me from pick sixes.
How? I mean, how in the world? That's so funny.
Jameis Winston throws not one, but 2 pick sixes last night as the Cleveland Browns drop to 3-9, lose to the Broncos 41-32. It was the story of Jameis Winston's career. He throws for 497. He throws 4 touchdowns. The Browns put up 32 points, but he throws 3 picks, and every one of them were hilarious. There was one he threw in the end zone, Dorin. I've seen the highlight now 6 or 7 times. There's only one guy he could be throwing the ball to, and that's a linebacker.
Yeah.
Like, there's no one in the area. I remember Jameis, he led the league in interceptions. This was a while back now. He threw 33 touchdowns, second most in football, 30 interceptions, the most in football. And then in the offseason, he got LASIK eye surgery.
Yeah, I was just about to. That's so great you brought that up. Yes, go ahead.
But that always struck me. Like, bro, I know you think you can't see, and maybe you can. Like, maybe you need the cheaters on whenever you're finding time to read your books. Maybe you need the bifocals. I don't know. But LASIK eye surgery, like, just throw it to the blobs wearing your team's colors. Like, if it's like fuzzy, fine, but the Browns wear white and orange.
You're right.
And the Broncos are wearing blue.
Didn't he say, like, he got LASIK? It was like, yeah, everything's been going good.
Yeah.
I'm fixed. The Lord has gave me eyes. I can see. Thank you, Lord.
I know I'm better than this. I know. I'm just praying for the Lord to deliver me from pick sixes.
That's so funny.
That is one of the funniest post-game quotes in the history of professional athletics. And it is so Jameis Winston. And I vowed earlier this year that I wasn't going to tweet during Steelers games because a lot of times you're emotional, things happen very fast, and it winds up looking real dumb. Like, oh, this Steelers defense blows. And then the next thing you know, they force 2 fumbles and have a pick 6, and you know what I'm saying here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people last night tweeting through the Jameis Winston experience. A lot of national people last night saying the Browns need to re-sign Jameis Winston this offseason and start him over Deshaun Watson. And I'm not sure that that's a bad idea, even with him throwing the 3 picks. But the 3 picks were so bad. Okay, go ahead.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yep.
He's better than Deshaun, no doubt. No doubt. Deshaun ain't throwing 4 touchdowns at 497. But he's still not good.
Right.
And so that brings me to the crux of the conversation to start the show, and we'll do a lot more Steelers-related stuff as we move forward today. The Browns are better than I thought. They beat the Steelers the other night. That was a gritty performance by them, and I blame the Steelers for the loss, and I still think the Steelers beat themselves more than the Browns beat the Steelers. But hey, the Browns had a hand in it. Of course they did. And then last night's game, super competitive on the road against a team that it looks is a shoo-in now for the playoffs, and the Broncos sitting there at 8-5. And these Browns are game. They're game.
And you know what? This is why I would think it'd be so ridiculous for them to fire Stefanski. This has to do with a lot with Stefanski. You give him actually a competent quarterback, and look what they can do. I mean, look at last year. That should be enough proof. And I think that we can all get on the same page. I know it's Cleveland, and that's our rival, whatever. But I think we can all agree that Stefanski's a good coach. Probably their best coaches they've had in a while, right? I mean, I can't remember one that's had this amount of success or like some success. It's all Deshaun Watson. If if they move on from Stefanski at the end of the year, I think that would just be a huge disservice to their football team. They know what the root of the issue is, and I don't think they can get underneath it.
I think the Steelers are in a really good place to compete in this division the next few years, so long as Russell Wilson comes back. And if the Browns did something stupid like that, that's outstanding.
Right.
Stefanski didn't want Watson. Watson got forced upon him. He can't win with Watson. He's won with everybody else. He won and went to the playoffs with Joe Flacco. They were on their fourth-string quarterback last year. He's a two-time coach of the year. You're right. Stefanski, I don't know if he's a great coach. He's a good coach.
Yeah.
And you don't fire good coaches in Cleveland. You hang on to them. The Ravens could have fired Harbaugh a couple of times. The Steelers, I guess, could have fired Tomlin a couple of times for some relative underachieving. And the Ravens are a model of consistency in this division, as are the Steelers. The Browns should follow that model. But you think about the Bengals, they're not making the playoffs this year. Chad Ochocinco's crying gumball tears. We'll play that for you later on. That's also hilarious. Chad Ochocinco very, very upset, despondent even, that the Bengals are missing out on a year of Joe Burrow's window. But their defense blows. They don't have good players. That's not going to be an overnight fix. I don't care who their coordinator is next year. The Ravens are going to be a problem as long as Lamar's there, but he hasn't been a Steelers problem. And if the Browns fire Stefanski, their roster is going to turn over. They're still dealing with all they had to give up for Watson in terms of the draft picks, and with what they're paying him. It wasn't that long ago. Oh, boy, what are the Steelers going to do? They're going to be in the basement for a while. It's Joe Burrow and Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson. Feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good about where the Steelers sit so long as Russell Wilson remains a Steeler, and I think he will.
Yeah, and for the price that they've done these things and these moves. I mean, Patrick Queen being, the highest paid offseason acquisition in a long time, I think, ever, right?
Yep.
Defensive, at least. For the price that they've paid, especially Russell Wilson, I mean, what, $1.2 million? That's what you're getting for Russell Wilson right now? I mean, that is just unbelievable. And so, he's playing at a high level, and I honestly am not shocked. I'm not shocked. And, thinking about last year and what he did and the situation he was in, the Broncos are actually decent this year. And, that just shows you that, whenever you have, you have two alphas in a room, they clash most of the time. So Russell Wilson being in a situation with Sean Payton last year, it was probably just never going to work. Russell Wilson does things his way. Sean Payton does things his way. Sean Payton needs a guy that he can mold, or a guy like Drew Brees that they think they have like-minded, thoughts throughout the season. So, and
really, Brees became Brees. He was pretty good at the end in San Diego, but he became Brees with Payton. So They had that camaraderie,
together, yes,
that symbiotic relationship. You're right about that. Sometimes, there's a decision made, and there's clearly a right party and a wrong party.
Mm-hmm.
This Russell Wilson situation is one where Denver did the right thing for them and for Sean Payton. If they had so much invested in Payton, you let him run it the way he wants to run it, and now he's molding Knicks. And with Russell Wilson, it's working out for him too.
Yeah.
So I think both parties got exactly what they wanted and needed. And you're right, it was a match that just wasn't going to work.
Well, they're still paying $39 million for Russell Wilson to maybe go to a Super Bowl.
There's that.
Yeah.
There's that. But would they be 8-5 with Russ this year? I'm not sure.
Probably not. You're right.
Russ is a better player.
Right.
Than
it just
Bo
never
Nix.
would have worked.
Think about that game on Sunday for the Steelers. I went back and I rewatched it. This is, again, why I don't have time to read. Girls are napping, rewatching Steelers Bengals. What is? I'm such a nerd. And how many times they just barely got the snap off before the play clock? One time they didn't, because Russell Wilson's getting up there with 20, 15 seconds, and he's stopping everything, and he's Omahaing, and he's blah, blah, blahing. And I don't know what kind of freedom he had in Denver last year, but I don't think Arthur Smith has such a big ego where he's thinking, oh, boy, Russ, I called this. You got to stick with it. I would be willing to bet that, especially in that first half, and this is just an educated-ish guess, 50% of the time Russ is up there switching probably from run plays to passing plays.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't had that in years, and he didn't have that, I don't think, because of the egos at play in Denver.
And Mike Tomlin, that's the way, and we talked about this before the season, like the way that Mike Tomlin wants to coach football, he has to have a veteran quarterback that he could trust, that he doesn't have to, kind of put his arm around and kind of hold his hand. And that's exactly what they needed. And we talked about this yesterday. If you watch the slot motions yesterday or in the game in Cincinnati, you could tell that's whenever Russell Wilson was running the offense. That's whenever he was making the checks because he's identifying the coverages. He's identifying what's going on. You haven't had that in years, but that's exactly why Mike Tomlin was so infatuated by Russell Wilson, is because he knows that he could win with a quarterback that he doesn't have to hold his hand and that he could trust. And with Kenny Pickett and some of the other quarterbacks that we've seen outside of Ben, Mike Tomlin's like, handcuffs, nope, we're not. I don't trust you to do that. You might throw the ball in harm's way. Now he has a guy that can do it. Yeah, even Fields. Yes, he has a guy that he knows that can do it, and that's how Mike Tomlin has really, he only knows Ben Roethlisberger really, and he's seen the highest of the highs, and he wanted to get back to that point where he could trust the quarterback and offensive coordinator and to do their thing and to not have to intervene.
I know that Russ didn't really play all that well against the Ravens. I do think he played well against Cleveland. He was far from their biggest problem in that game. Was obviously outstanding on Sunday. This is the highest level of quarterback play the Steelers have had since 2018, and it's not even close. Russell Wilson is a good quarterback. I've sort of been waiting for that other shoe to drop. Like, he can't be this good, really. No, I just think he is. I think he is because I think the mind is as sharp as it's ever been. Like, he knows more about football now than he did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So he's at the sharpest he's ever been diagnosing defenses. He understands this offense, and then we're seeing it. The arm's there, man. He drops the ball in the bucket down the sideline to Pickens. He lasers that one in to
Freiermuth.
Freiermuth was a great play. That wasn't even the one I was referencing, but yeah, that one he moves in the pocket and throws it on a BB. Van Jefferson, where that thing's like 3 feet off the ground. There's no hump in that ball. Zips it right in there. The throw to Calvin Austin, that's a hell of a throw. So his mind is working at this high level. The arm is as good as it was in 2014. I don't know that that's even arguable. The Steelers have right now a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback pulling the trigger here.